Hello, everyone, and welcome and happy Earth Day 2026. My name is Lynn McLean, and it is my pleasure to serve as the president of the Federated Women's Institutes of Canada, FWI Canada. Thank you so much for joining us for this YouTube presentation. It's wonderful to have you with us. This year's Earth Day theme is Our Power, Our Planet. Over the past year and a half, FWIC has been sharing our national project, Sustainable Style with Mindful Consumption. In other words, it's about taking a moment to think about what we buy, how we use it, and what happens next, and how those everyday choices can add up to real impact. For our Earth Day presentation this year, we're looking at the same idea from another angle, how taking part in the circular economy can make a difference. It's my pleasure to introduce our presenter, Monica Rivers, the owner and founder of Rooted Gatherings in Pictou County, Nova Scotia. Monica's background is in cartography, small business management, and nonprofit leadership. And she brings that mix of systems thinking, strategy, and creativity into everything she does. She's passionate about strengthening community, supporting local systems change, and helping build a more circular economy, both through her business and through her work with organizations like the WI. Her company, Rooted Gatherings, grew out of a deep commitment to rural communities, a love of meaningful connection, and a real desire to make an impact. Today, Monica partners with community impact organizations to bring ideas to life through digital marketing support, event planning, and engagement initiatives that spark collaboration and support sustainable growth. We're also delighted to welcome Monica as a fellow WI member. Monica, thank you for being with us and for the leadership you bring to our community. Please note, at the end of the presentation, look for our next step slides listing resources and an upcoming event. Enjoy.
Hi everyone, my name is Monica Rivers and I'm the owner and founder of Rooted Gatherings based in Pictou County, Nova Scotia. I was happy to be invited by the Federated Women's Institutes of Canada to share a bit more about the circular economy and more specifically about sustainable style and responsible consumption, which is their Earth Day theme this year. Here is a little bit of the agenda and what I'll be chatting more about. So starting off with what is the circular economy? I'll get into my travels to Montreal last year for the Circular Economy Summit, some key takeaways, also an example, and then some ways that you can get involved, and then what's next for me. So before I begin, I just want to make a note that I'm not a circular economy expert. This is just something that I'm personally really passionate in and looking at ways that I can always integrate more sustainable practices into my business when I'm supporting other organizations with whether it's marketing or event planning. So the circular economy is a system where materials never become waste and nature is regenerated. So in a circular economy, you're really looking at ways to keep products and materials in circulation as long as we can. So this can be done through processes like maintenance, reuse, refurbishment, remanufacturing, recycling, and also composting. And there's a lot of people across Canada who are already doing a really great job in this area and supporting the advancement of the circular economy. So I always just want to make sure that we do recognize people's contributions in this space. So a lot of you may know of the 3 R's, which are reduce, reuse, and recycle. And I wanted to share a little bit more around the R strategies. So this is really broken down into 4 kind of main components. So when you're thinking of ways that you can keep products and materials in circulation as long as possible, you kind of have that design phase, the consumption, the end of life of a product or material, and then the loss of resources at the end. So you're really trying to think more circular and how can you design products in a way that you're reducing your impact on the environment rather than taking a more linear approach, which is kind of your take, make, and then use and dispose. So you have kind of going down through that circular economy framework. We have refuse, rethink, reduce, reuse, repair, refurbish, remanufacture, repurpose, recycle, recover, and then your loss of resources at the very end, which is landfill or incineration. So a little activity, and I'll give you a few seconds to kind of think about this. But what do these items have in common? So we have wool, hemp, and apples. So they are all used to make fabric. Apple leather is a bio-based material made using the leftover pumice and peel from the fruit juice and compote industry. So it originated from northern Italy, and the fabric is really kind of created by first taking the discarded and recovered apple waste and reducing it into a powder. And then once it's processed, it's sent off to a factory where it's combined with polyurethane and coated onto a cotton and polyester canvas. So this is really great. An example of what this might actually make is a wallet. So a little bit about my time. So last year I went to the Canadian Circular Economy Summit in Montreal. And here you'll see a few images. So the one in the middle there is actually talking about apple leather. And so it was a really great opportunity for me to go and learn about what innovative businesses or kind of ideas are coming from across Canada to help with the advancement of the circular economy. And one thing that I kind of learned from this experience and kind of wanted to start thinking about in my own personal life is you'll see there is a photo there on the role of local government. And so when we're looking at system changes, it really does take everyone in a community to start thinking and focusing on new ideas and new approaches to create the change in our communities that we want to see. So it's not just one person or one organization that's going to be doing this. So it is really important to have different perspectives when you're trying to look at advancing something in your region. I have a photo of the food. So it was a vegetarian menu, which was really interesting and not often found at a lot of events. So I had an opportunity to try new things, which was really exciting for me. And then you'll see there at the end, they had some really cool kind of artistic disposable bins that people would take their recyclables back to. And so you'll see you can drop off your batteries or your cell phone. So it was a great way to kind of get more people engaged and really interested in some of these practices. So some of my key takeaways from this was integrating circular economy principles into our everyday lives is something everyone can do. So sometimes we feel like we're not quite sure how we can kind of be part of the change or what we can actually do. So when we're really looking at how do we start doing this, what are some ways, and looking at what other communities are doing, it's a great opportunity for us to better kind of understand how we can play a part in this. The second one is we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We can learn from what already exists and adapt it for our community. So really kind of touching on that. What are people already doing? And how can we reach out to folks and say, hey, can you share more about how you get started with this in your community? And then from there, kind of building your network of people in this space so that you can achieve more than just one person could. And then the last one is we need to utilize communication channels to share more about what the circular economy is. So when you really kind of think of this as an example, this is a way that the Federated Women's Institutes of Canada could really help and support making people more aware of what the circular economy is. And so the more we have those conversations, the more people start thinking about what they could be doing in their own communities, and also maybe just kind of sparking an interest in a specific area that someone might do some more research in. So an example I wanted to share with you is the Thingery. So they're based in BC, and they work with community groups, developers, social housing, cooperative housing, and planners to develop and pretty much put these lending libraries in place for different apartment units and other places like that, where they can really meet people where they're at rather than having spaces that people have to come to. So the lending libraries, they're a great way to reduce a person's ecological footprint. It does lower barriers to accessing equipment, where generally they're a lot cheaper than having to go out and purchase a piece of equipment, especially if you only need it once, or maybe you need a few different tools to get a project that you're working on done. And so this is an alternative kind of option as opposed to having to go out and actually purchase all of those for one thing and then you no longer have a use for them. It does strengthen social connections. So when you're in a space and people are also kind of interested in the same things as you and they're accessing the lending library, and maybe you're able to kind of share some of the things that you've been able to do with the equipment. It's a really great opportunity to meet other people and also learn. And then it assists in emergency preparedness as well. So here is a photo. So you'll see over on the left side there, they have a little tablet that you can kind of get items. And then once you take them back, then you would scan just so that they know that it's been taken back. And so over on your right and in the middle, you'll see their storage cabinets and where they would actually keep the equipment and other things that people would be taking out to use. So what are some ways that you can get involved with your community? And some of you may already do some of these things in your own community, or maybe you know someone who is interested in maybe hosting something like this. So some ideas that I did want to share with you. So there are places that do repair cafes. So you can all come together, and generally there's some volunteers there that are able to help support people in repairing some of their equipment or a sock or anything like that. Then we do have some tool libraries. And also, I did want to mention potentially in your local libraries or with your local municipalities, you may also be able to borrow like recreational tools like bikes or other things like that that you can also use. So then you can also have clothing swaps, whether that's you get a bunch of friends together and invite them over, or you host something at a community hall in your local community. It's also a really great thing to promote farmers markets and support refill stores and bulk buying if you have those kind of options in your community. And then you can also run workshops on repair skills, composting, decluttering. Really, it can be on anything. If you're kind of interested in doing something like that, but you don't have the skills quite yet, it's a great opportunity to also reach out to a few other folks in the community and see if they might be interested in supporting or offering a workshop. So, what is next for me? So, I guess kind of from that, the first thing was I started vermicomposting. So, it's a method of recycling organic waste using red wiggler worms. That is a tongue twister. So they consume, what I generally do is I will take the food scraps, the vegetable food scraps that I have from cooking supper, and I'll freeze those. And then I take them out and thaw them. And then I put them in with the worms, and they break them down into a nutrient-rich substance, which is called worm castings. So I actually will be able to put my first kind of worm castings out in my raised beds this year, so I'm really looking forward to that. I have also been involved with planning the Pictou County Climate Summit that is taking place in our community. So it will bring kind of together community leaders, municipal representatives, businesses, and residents to really look at how we can advance climate initiatives in our community. And so planning is underway, and we're working with the municipal units and Pictou Landing First Nation here. And then my last kind of little thing that is currently right now an idea in my brain, and will hopefully maybe someday in the future come together, or at least I will continue to look at ways that I can introduce more circular, whether it's workshops or sessions in my own community, is I would like to have a kind of dedicated organization to promoting sustainability and supporting the community's shift towards waste reduction and a more circular economy. So that is it. And thank you for coming along and learning a little bit more about the circular economy. Hopefully you were able to take a few things away from that. And I would love to hear how you're advancing the circular economy in your own communities. And I will end off by saying waste is a resource in the wrong place. So when we all come together and look at having more conversations in our community, we can really come up with some unique opportunities to challenges that we're facing. And like I say, I can't wait to see what you come up with. So thanks.